All right. We are live on Facebook. We are being recorded for future viewings. And we've got a bunch of people signed up. And we had a great community meeting on Saturday. Very lively. We had two special guests on Saturday. Actually, one special guest, excuse me. Let me make sure the audio is working on Facebook. Is that audio working on Facebook? Hold on. There it is. All right. And I was gonna try to get some special guests here for tonight, but 6:30 tonight, I couldn't get any special guests to show up here, so I will continue to even maybe get them to show up next month. But we got a bunch of small things to talk about. Our community meeting on Saturday went an extra, I'd say, a good half an hour or more longer than we had planned, and easily until noon, and then everyone stuck around for another hour. We a lot of people talked about a whole host of different things. So if you have anything on Facebook, on the Facebook world out there that you would like to throw in the chat, or just raise your hand if you're in Zoom here, or just throw it in the chat here and ask away while we go over stuff. Let's see. First thing we're going to talk about. So today's meeting, I'll just open up to the same thing I said. I'll get a photo here, share my screen. Right here, we're going to have this meeting in memory of Lou Leong. And he was Hawaiian, lived here in Redondo for umpteen amount of years, and just passed away this last month, July 1st, at the ripe young age of 92 years old. Was married to his wife, Kate, for 53 years, I believe it was, 53 years. And went to his memorial last week, Friday, at the Lighthouse Memorial Center there in Torrance, just down the street from Redondo, from the other Lighthouse Memorial Center. And then they had the reception, the reception afterwards. The Masonic Temple was actually the first time at the Masonic Temple in Redondo there on Ruby Street. And what was so cool about Lou was that he was the smile and the happy face of Avenue E here. And as his son so correctly said and identified so many times, is that City of Redondo Beach lost a lot of ticket revenue because of Lou, because he'd be out on the street on every day. It was street sweeping and knocking on neighbors' doors. If you hadn't moved your car yet, he know whose car was what neighbor. He'd be knocking on a door 8:55, because when that street sweeper came through at 9:10, 9:15, they'd be giving tickets, and Lou made sure everyone's cars was moved. He had always a smile, infectious smile. He had no enemies in Redondo or anywhere in this whole world. Really, really nice guy. Always outside working, hated being inside. Was a mechanic for TWA, Trans World Airlines. So if you were TWA, he was one of you. And yeah, so I want to dedicate this to Lou, 92 years young. And it's always sad to see one of the neighbors and longtime residents of Redondo pass away. So yeah, Saturday's community meeting, I'm going to start having different small businesses be showing up and being some sponsors there. Last week we had Clatch Coffee. They brought all the coffee and pastries. So if you've ever been to Clatch Coffee on the corner of Torrance and PCH, great coffee, great food. Most of the stuff they cook there or bake in-house. Some of the stuff they get from a guy called Rocken Wagner, and he's in Venice. He supplies some of the food to Pete's Coffee as well. Really delicious pastries. I mean, all the pastries are gone. I think there was maybe one or half of a muffin left. It was really good. So big shout out to Clatch Coffee. Big thank you to them. And we'll get going here to the agenda. So first things we'll start off with here is we passed our budget last month. It was the largest budget in the history of Redondo Beach. Our revenues are going crazy, are going really well. Our real estate taxes are going really well. Our sales taxes are exploding, getting up there to what was the ultimate high. And when I say the ultimate high, is way back when, 10 years ago, we had this little place called Nordstrom's. And Nordstrom's was providing us millions of dollars of tax revenue, including the South Bay Galleria as a whole. And when Nordstrom's left to Del Amo in 2014, 15, right in there, 14, 15, the sales tax revenues literally overnight from December 31st to January 1st dropped by about $3 or $4 million. And then it's been on the decline ever since. South Bay Galleria was, as just everyone knows, we approved a project in January of 2019 for 300 apartments plus 800,000 square feet of commercial. So I think in total there's 1.6 million square feet of commercial, net new, including the hotel and apartments. Massive project. And since then they've had troubles. Number one is this little thing called COVID coming through, and number two is the authority that said they would never sell. Queensland Investment Corporation, which is the retirement arm in Queensland for public employees and teachers, they sold. They said they would never sold, and they sold. And so they sold to Louis Vuitton, Monet, and Hennessy. Yes, LVMH, that group that sells all the high-end goods. And they've ever since then they've been revamping the product. They pulled permits to build the beginning of this year, or actually end of last year, and they have by I believe a year to break ground. So up until December of this year, they are looking to do another 350 apartments there. That's going through the planning commission as well, going through a process. And the EIR that was approved in January 2019 allowed for 650 apartments. So they have the entitlement there for 650, and they showed the community where they plan on putting those apartments in townhomes, I believe. So it's going to be another big project in addition to what they're currently doing there, and they're moving along. They've got some financial issues over there, but that was all talking because going over that history there, because a lot of people think nothing's happening. Something is happening, and our budget is directly tied to that. We get every net new unit in Redondo, we get this fee called the Quimby fee, $25,000, and that goes to parks. And that fund was used heavily at this budget season. Last year it was credit card spent, meaning we spent more than what we were planning on taking in. So we were planning on taking X dollar, whatever the number was, say $100,000, and we spent that before that money had even come in yet. So while we were expecting that money, we didn't have the money in hand. We budgeted for it and sent it along the way. This year we're spending a ton of that money as well. I think almost all that money as well. The staff proposed a budget with raising a lot of fees, more so than Councilmember Lowenstein and I ever would have liked. But because we have such record revenue all over the place, and the budget that was eventually passed had fees and fines that were extraordinarily high, way too high. In fact, so high that if you read it in some of the newspapers, the mayor said, I'm going to veto this because it's just too much. It's just too much. You got to cut. It was just spending, tax and spend, tax and spend. That's what it came down to. And Councilmember Lowenstein and I said no to it, and that's why the mayor was able to do what he is able to do, use that threat of a veto. And what was interesting about it was that there was a conversation from the city attorney regarding as to if you were able to veto a budget. And I'll just say that I find it very interesting that an elected city attorney is able to come out and say what he said, when in fact, in years prior, official budgets had not been passed until December. So we make a motion and pass it in June, but the actual resolution isn't actually passed until December or September or October. And that's because of the way the budget processing would go. And I'll just leave it at that. And I'll say that this year, our official resolution was done almost immediately. In fact, we had some of the fees came back to the first council meeting in July, and Councilmember Lowenstein and I pulled that item and we voted no on it because, once again, raising of all these fees is too much. For instance, they wanted to raise some of the parking permit fees to $500 from $110. $110 to $500. That's just ridiculous. Coastal zone in the harbor provides a tremendous amount of revenue for the entire city as a whole. And this particular budget this year really shows that the coastal zone, so where the only place where there's parking, um, uh, paid parking per hour, provides massive amount of revenue for both the coins and the per hour charge, but also for the ticket fees and parking permit fees. And that's because the coastal zone along the in Riviera Village and along the Esplanade and the harbor, that's a highly impacted zone. The harbor itself, when we went over the budget, provides millions of dollars of revenue for the city, more so than any other portion of the city. If it wasn't for the harbor, this city would have huge financial issues, massive financial issues. So we are almost completely leased out in the harbor. We have 2 remaining locations. One might be leased out by the end of summer, hopefully. And the other location, they're doing they're doing engineering work and earthquake work. So with that said, I got a bunch of money for Alta Vista, $60,000 for Alta Vista. The backstops, the courts, the benches, which are literally falling apart. The concrete that's crumbled, some new fencing so that the balls don't go out in the street and kids go chasing after them. That's been a big problem through the years. All of these improvements are coming. It's in addition to the 50,000 I got for Alta Vista last year, which did all the new fencing and on the city side of the baseball diamonds. They were in dire need of getting rebuilt, and that's huge. Let's see. Anything else in the budget that is of big news? We started conversations in June regarding doing a bond, and we'll transition. If anyone has any questions regarding the budget or want to add anything to the budget, let me know if there's anything you want to put in there. In June, we started talking about doing a bond in Redondo. So I'll be very clear on this. I sat down with our city manager and Mayor Brand in spring of last year before the strategic plan. And that was to go through all of our city buildings and do an inventory and checklist as to the state of the city buildings. Performing Arts Center needs some massive upgrades. Veterans Park needs some massive upgrades. City Hall is falling apart. We all know conditions of the fire department is horrific where they live. Police department, they've talked about getting a new police firing range, and we've been spending a lot of money on the police station on the interior the last few years. They have a great police station on the interior. It does need work, absolutely, but other parts of the city, such as the city hall, public works yards, has never gotten any major upgrades, only maybe duct tape and paint, literally. And it's fallen apart. And that goes directly to your quality of life here in Redondo Beach. 90% of the phone calls, emails, text messages, complaints, issues, and all requests that come in, I'd say easily 90% are public works related, whether it's trees that are coming down, it was broken sidewalks, it's whatever parks, fixing of parks, park equipment. All that comes from out of public works. Public works does a majority of the work that you see out in the city, keeping the city clean, keeping the city moving. They clean up after auto accidents. They ensure the storm drains work, and they have a very small budget, but they have a lot of people, and they are very core to our community. And the reason I'm spending time on public works is because 2 weeks ago or last week at the city council meeting, we're going down this path of possibly doing $100 million bond. And we're going to be improving the public safety facilities, police and fire facilities. Fire need them badly. And the police station, one of 2 buildings, there's the annex, which is on the east side of PCH. at City Hall, across City Hall. That building is owned uh, by the school district. We leased that out from them for the next 80 years or so. And the chief of police just kept coming down saying, it's just offices, just detectives, offices. You don't need to, basically saying you don't need to spend millions of dollars. And I would rather spend the millions of dollars instead of on that facility, on the public works yard. City yard, as correctly identified here, was one of the first buildings that were built here in the city, falling apart. They need the work. It's not critical. If we're going to do a bond, we need to do it two ways. One is we do the critical items in this short amount of time span that we have, that we've been talking about this. So absolutely critical items. Or we do a true inventory of all of our buildings and costs that we need. And we have not done that true inventory. There's a lot of city buildings that need work, need love, and they're all important to our quality of life. I model ourselves after cities like Manhattan Beach that take care of all their buildings. They're talking about redoing Beg Pool and a lot of their parks. They just got a bond to do their fire station number 2. And they did a bond from the residents, $9 million bond from the residents. Actually, a little less than $8 million bond, I want to say, from the residents. And I'm going to find that exact information out. And they had the plans, they had the drawings, they got specs and exact costs. They had a bond on that, and it'd be a little bit more expensive. So they had to put in some of their own money, and they used ARPA funds from COVID. So that's well planned out. That is the way you do a bond. Their fire station was younger than our current fire stations. So everyone wants to spend money. Everyone wants to go out there and get money, sell a bond, and then do all these projects. But all we've had so far is a guy that walked through these buildings, take a look at the facilities, say, you have X square feet. This is what you do here. This is the range of what these buildings cost nowadays to be rebuilt. And I think you're going to be in the upper or lower end, or this area of the range, and then price it out per square foot. And then they added 20% as contingency in there. It's not 10, not 15%, but 20% contingency. So if we're going to go for this money, I think we need to do it and do it right. If it's critical, like we're saying it is, then we need to be the critical portions of the city, and then do another bond for the other portions that aren't as critical. But regardless, all of these buildings in the city, they need to be redone. We're way past the time of duct tape and paint, and we need to have pride in our buildings as well. So I want to also talk about the fact that the school district is going for a $278 million bond in the fall, November election. This proposed city bond that we're thinking about doing will go on the November election. So think about this November election. You have the federal issues, the state issues, the county issues, and the local issues. So the school district wants to do $278 million. Beach Cities Health District is thinking about doing a $30 million bond, right? So those would be on the election. Beach Cities Health District would be comprised of 3 cities, so Manhattan, Hermosa, Redondo. And then the county. The county has multiple bonds as well. In one particular, they have a homeless one. The 501c3 United Way got signatures to sunset the Measure H sales tax increase. Measure H sales tax increase passed a few years ago by people, is providing hundreds of millions of dollars per year to deal with the homeless problem. United Way wants to sunset that. That's supposed to be sunset at 2028. They want to sunset it this year and then increase it another percentage. And they want to take that money, and they have a formula and a framework as to how to spend it. I'm not in favor of that. I don't believe the majority of the supervisors, last time I heard, were for it. This is United Way doing their own thing because they run homeless programs and services. So that's just in the county and the city locally. And then, of course, we have the state. The state's doing a water bond, clean water bond. The state is doing environmental bond. I believe they're also doing a housing bond. And last but not least, they're doing a school bond, $14 billion for school bond. And in that, from what I've heard, the details on that is if your city spends $10 million on infrastructure, they will match you $10 million of infrastructure. So that's part of their bond. And of course, there's a ballot measure, ACA 1 or something, I think. There's a ballot measure that says to lowering the threshold from 65 or 66% for bonds to 50% plus one. So that's a significant decrease. So a lot of things that we're moving forward on that side in Redondo. I've so far voted no on moving this bond forward. I don't believe we need to be redoing the police annex, which is just the offices and the buildings there. I'd rather be spending that money. This is critical that we spend the money on the public works yard. We rely on them all the time, and that place is falling apart. It doesn't. I haven't even begun talking about the environmental issues that are probably associated with public works yard. One could only imagine all the maintenance, and it's what's happening through the years at those areas. So things we got to start taking care of in our own backyard. So everything does cost money. Let me look at the comments here. Yep, money is always the issue. That vision is going on for 20 years. Yes, you are correct. And David, finally someone's doing something about this. And we're moving this forward. Mayor Brandon and I started moving this forward. Staff was supposed to come back with this full scope of city buildings in the fall. They didn't. They moved it to January. They moved it to February. Still had to come back. Finally, we started pushing them, and finally had one guy walk through the police and fire and public works. That's all they did. They didn't go through Performing Arts Center. They didn't go through Veterans Park Old Library. We're finally moving on this and getting this done. And if we do it today, it's cheaper than if we do it in 5 or 10 years from now. So the big question here is what are we getting in there, and what are we doing, and what's critical? Again, my position has always been for this critical items first, if we do in the short time span. Otherwise, we have to do all these buildings. Yes, it would cost more to renovate than to redo. And there's two schedules here: renovation or rebuild. We've all heard the stories. Somebody remodeling a house. It would have just been cheaper and easier and faster to demo the house and just rebuild it from the ground up. And imagine buildings that were built in 1958, 55, depending on which ones you're looking at. Would you rather just deal with that or just demo it and rebuild it correctly? One thing that Manhattan Beach did correctly actually a couple of years ago was they put at City Hall, they put the police and fire departments into one building. So to me, we need to be looking at this more strategically. Maybe we want ambulance services in the future. We need to be able to build our fire stations to house those ambulance services. Maybe we need ambulance services at City Hall or paramedic services at City Hall, right? In addition to where they're currently at on Broadway for faster response times to Central Redondo. Maybe we work with Beach City's Health District and do use some of the bond money to build a police fire station, paramedic station, ambulance station there. It is we haven't had those conversations yet, and I think it's vital that we do. That's one of the reasons why I've been voting no on this so far. Is it's kind of been thrown together. So, any questions?
I couldn't get any.
Oops, hold on. Any questions so far on the bonding from anyone? You guys are throwing a lot of questions into the comments. It's good. El Segundo's firing range is indoor and soundproof. That is true. Hermosa Beach has an indoor fire range as well. That's what Carl's Jr. did on PCH next to Del Amo after the fire. I don't know, David Kim, what that means. Carl's Jr. on PCH and Chase Bank to Del Amo after the fire. I'm thinking you mean in Torrance. No, that's on PCH. Yeah, I'm not sure if you want to explain that, you can. Dr. Wayne Craig, your hand is up.
Oh, yeah, I was going to say with regard to a couple of the bond measures, I was speaking to a couple of the school board members, and while the state has funds that could potentially be reimbursed, uh, there's a lot of caveats to that. One, you have to have the building built, so you may or may not get some of that money back. So it's true some can be reimbursed, but again, the mechanism and how that's done, the caveats involved, and it might make it difficult. And to mention, I think Nancy Skiba had mentioned too about the gun range. I worked for a large armored car company for a bunch of years. Every one of our facilities had our own internal gun ranges.
Okay. Well, there you go. David, got your comment. I didn't know that Carl's Jr. got in a fire. That's why they rebuilt. Um, that makes sense, actually. I remember that now. I know they got rebuilt, but I didn't know they had a fire.
Oh, Carl's was not on fire. The Chase Bank was on fire. Carl's Jr. was just demoed and
Oh,
rebuilt because they wanted to renovate and bring it up to code.
two
Carl's was
different.
not on fire.
Oh, got it. Two different subjects. Go ahead. Got it.
Two
Yep.
different, yes.
Yep. 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 Okay. Thank you. Appreciate that. Um, Robert RB, you have a comment here. Filthy vagrant who is dominating the Bud bench at Prospect and Torrance. The citizens can use it. Okay, we'll have someone look at that for a homeless person on that bench. We'll write that down. So for yeah, we'll get on that. Didn't know that. Local events programming to raise money for no, it's too much money, Nancy. We're talking millions of dollars here for these buildings. And I just want to remind everyone that these buildings last. I mean, we've had these buildings for 60 years now, and they were not built to last 60 years. They've far outlived their useful lifespans, and they show it. So I think we build it right, they'll last way longer than what construction techniques were back 50, 60 years ago, and we'll get our money's worth. The last thing I'll say on this, why we have to be careful on this, is when you do a bond, say for 10 million, you're going to be roughly paying 75-80% more, almost double for that price. So if you borrow 10, you'll end up probably spending 18 million, maybe 20 million, 17 million, depending on your bond rating. We have a fantastic credit rating in Redondo Beach. And I don't know, actually, the last time the City of Redondo Beach did a bond was for wastewater, that's sewers in Redondo. That was in the 70s, I believe. So we haven't had a bond in Redondo Beach, the City of Redondo Beach, in a long, long time. So yeah. All right. Speaking of bonds and wastewater, I'm gonna go over something here real quick and do a little what do I call this? Show and tell. I did a tour on part of the budget from a few weeks ago was right before was we were raising the fees for trash. And it goes through a vote. You get a postcard in the mail and you say yes or no. And long story short, your fees for trash are paid through your property taxes in Redondo. And those fees are set according to a variety of factors. Some of it is largest one where part of it is how far away the transfer centers are, what kind of trash you are, whether it's commercial or residential. One other major factor about trash and your rate fees is the diversion rate. So instead of going into the landfill, it goes to the recycling center, which can then be further bring in revenue. And it's important because that revenue brings your trash rates down. So I'm going to share my screen here real quick. I did a tour of the Athens facility. I've been meaning to do this for a number of years. Finally got on it. It just so happened to be about 2 weeks before we had this hearing at the council regarding the trash rates. That is on that green vehicle on the left-hand side is an LA City trash truck. This is what's a facility called the MRF facility. It's a multiple refuse transfer or sorting station. So all this that you see right here in front of you on the right hand side, this big pile will be processed that day, and it's all recyclables. It's not trash, it's recyclable. So it's the blue bin. And all this stuff, there's a big compactor here, it comes in, compacts it, and it brings it up to the conveyor belt, this conveyor belt right here, and it processes dozens upon dozens of tons per day, and it sorts out cardboard, paper, plastic, aluminum, metal, glass, different types of plastic. And if I grab the right photos, I'll show you. These are some of the machines here, the trash trucks. You'll see them just coming through and dumping out their load. These are the types of materials that you're seeing that they take and they don't take. Materials that wrap. So once those things that they don't take are wire, chain, rope, cable, because that gets into the equipment, breaks the equipment. Here's a good fun fact for you. The more you wrap up your recyclables into plastic bags, the worse it is to actually sort them out. As loose as possible is the best, because the machines, someone needs to go through it and actually if the machine can't break it open, somebody has to break it open and sort it. And I'm actually I might have to actually let me change my screen here actually and go to, I can see I'm missing a bunch of photos, and you're gonna get some raw photos of the facility, because it was actually really interesting to see the machines in action and how they worked. Here it is. All right, we'll do this. 11. All right, 1 second. Let me reshare my screen. There we go. All right. So this is the actual facility. You see right back here in the corner, this is where it all gets picked up. A big machine picks it up and throws it into the hopper, and then it starts going through all the conveyor belt systems. And we'll see here, go through the different types of conveyor belts. They actually have hand sorting machines and excuse me, mechanical hands that come down, suck up, and pick things up and place it in certain areas. So let me scrub through these real quick. So here's an interesting fact about this. Pre-COVID in 2019, 18, about 60% of their paper cardboard waste, 60% of that was paper. And about 40% plus was cardboard. Today, after COVID, about 85% is cardboard and 15% is paper. That's how much Amazon, people going at home, have changed. I see right in here, there's a fresh baked pizza box. Fresh baked pizza boxes go into your green recycling, because that can get composted. Any cardboard or paper with food on it goes into the green compost. This is literally the facility where hands literally go through and pick up trash by hand. Humans pick it up, go through it. Let me see if I can get here to some of the sorting facilities. There it is. This is the actual sorting facility. It goes through bottles and cans. A lot of this technology was invented 20, 30 years ago. It's not new. It's old. It's been around for a while, and that's what it looks like when it comes out. That looks like it's all different types of plastics. I'm not sure if this video is going to be able to carry it correctly, but they have the air shooting systems. These are little air vents down here, and they'll shoot out. We'll wait for it. Maybe it'll catch it. Maybe it didn't. It'll shoot out metal, aluminum cans, metal of that sort. Different facility. I'll go through some of this a little bit quicker. Here you'll see on this one, it's just a magnet, picks up all the metal fragments, right? Ferrous. I think I have a couple things in here, maybe not. Let's see, there you go. It gets kicked out. There you go. There you go. All the plastic bottles. Never mind. This is a plastic bottle one. So it's a screen. Let me short through here. This is just the last half hour, all this cardboard in the last half hour. And I don't think I wasn't allowed to take pictures of the actual workers themselves. That's what I was looking for. But this is the actual machine that is a fake can, deals with air pressure and a vacuum, and it's driven by AI. It's actually a machine that goes through and actually picks up certain bottles. And I don't think you can see it through this here, but it actually goes through and literally picks things up. It's really cool. Athens is building a modern facility right now in another city, multi-million-dollar facility, and they take on their trash. This here is a picture of their commercial construction. So some of your, including some of your green trash can waste, it goes here. Commercial construction, so drywall, wood, 2x4s, green waste, trees, goes to this facility. It gets sorted out and it gets dumped into these trucks and it goes into different composting facilities. And this is the biggest, one of the biggest, newest pushes that the state has. They have a ton of new state bills that are pushing compliance. The cities and the trash services have to audit trash cans. Yes, your trash cans and commercial trash cans, to make sure that you're not throwing away organics into the trash can and that you're throwing away proper green material in the green material. And they're trying to get as much green waste out of the landfill because that creates methane. And they want to be able to use that to create compost and then take that composting process, capture the methane and make electricity out of it. So that's the green waste that you see here. It all goes through sorting facilities. This is all indoors. Everything you see here is indoors. So none of the dust and dirt and particles go outside of the facilities. These are all conveyor belts. It's amazing how few people actually work and how much of this is automated. And this is all wood here you see on the left-hand side, which all go to the compost pile. And we have 4 compost pickups per year. And this is what it starts out as right here. This wood, this green waste right here. And it picks it up, they compost it, bring it to another facility, they compost it, compost it, and then we bring it back here, we give it out at Wilderness Park and the Performing Arts Center. So it's a really cool process to see. This is more construction waste. And the reason I'm showing this to you, one is it's kind of cool for some people to look at. This is the regular trash right here, which they do go through as well, and they do pick up some of the recyclables in there. It's all about what I said earlier, bifurcating, getting the trash, as much trash out of the landfills as possible. That percentage, that number of Redondo Beach, we have had a very high percentage. And what that does is create a lower cost for your trash services. So instead of spending $300-400 a month, you're only spending, or a year, or whatever the number is, you're spending a lot less. We have a very high conversion rate moving it out of the landfill in Redondo Beach for a multitude of factors. One is we in Redondo are very good at separating trash out into the blue, green, and gray trash cans. And I asked Athens why that is and how that's different from other cities. And they basically said straight out, it's the more you educate the residents, the better your conversion rates are. Diversion rates, I should say, diverting to these different waste streams, and the lower your overall cost for your trash. So that helps out tremendously for both businesses and residential. So yeah, I thought it was really interesting. If you're an engineer, if you're an engineer, you would have really liked this facility. All right, moving on to the next thing, unless you guys have any questions on that. Let's see, the harbor, 4th of July, Seaside Lagoon recap. So a lot of things are happening in the harbor. Let me check out my YouTube comments, see if anyone's on there commenting away. 4th of July was big this year. We had a really big 4th of July. For those of you that don't know what happened this year, we had a fireworks show. It was the biggest fireworks show ever. One reason why is the company that was shooting our fireworks show said we were going to shoot you a fireworks show that's worth twice as much as last year, and we said we don't need it, and they said doesn't matter, we're the only ones providing fireworks services, so you can either take it or leave it, and we said we will take that fireworks show. So we had a fantastic, huge fireworks show, and it was 18 minutes long or 20 minutes long, and it attracted people from not just the South Bay, I think from greater LA area. There were people on 190th. There were cars parked everywhere. I heard some great reviews about the fireworks show. Parking was a mess everywhere, which is a great thing because a lot of people came to the harbor. A lot of people spent the day. A lot of people spent parking. Again, one more thing about parking, right? So people come down, they're spending all the money in parking. That's generating huge revenues for the city. No, it's probably a lot. Yes, it is probably a loss leader for the city in terms of cost, the fireworks show and the barge rental, because you have to rent the barge to go along the fireworks show. If you do it along the coastline, was I believe $128,000 of that, around 40 or something thousand, 35, 40,000 is the barge company. And I'll show you the photos actually. Oops. That photo, why is that one coming up? It's taking a second here. 1 second. I posted one of those photos on. 1 second. My computer is not playing along right now. It was they set up over in Long Beach, and then they brought the tugboat over to Redondo, and that's why F11. And share the screen. There you go. This is in Long Beach, Port of Long Beach, over by the new Gerald Desmond Bridge. Company called Garden State Fireworks, which had all fireworks shows in LA County. Every single fireworks show that was done on a barge in LA County was done by Garden State. They are a New Jersey operation. They brought people in from across the United States, Texas and Jersey and a bunch of other states. Hire people here locally. They are not a local fireworks company. This is your actual show right here. These are all the pyrotechnics on the barge that go up. They cover them in plastic for the barge ride on the way over to the barge, because as you exit the harbor, the wind is so strong it sends spray over everything. These are all the electronics that go into the devices. The reason why you saw so many fireworks up in the sky at one particular time was, if you see this rack right up in here, with the 3 black tubes, their electronics would shoot a fuse, light the fuse right here. It would light this device off and it would burn a fuse and then go to this one and then light a fuse and go to this one right here. And there was about a 2 to 3 second delay on each one. So that's why when you saw a lot of fireworks up in the sky, because this is the way that they particularly designed the fireworks show. And all these down here are cakes down here on the right hand side. This is stuff, some of these things you can actually buy from consumer back east and back, say, Iowa and states like that, where they allow the consumption and selling off. Actually, not Iowa. I would say Wyoming, Milwaukee, North Dakota, South Dakota, those states. So yeah, that was your fireworks show over there, and we're gonna do it again next year. It was a big success. Got nothing but big compliments on it. A couple people says it was a little bit too long, but that's yeah, I don't know. A lot of people said it wasn't long enough. But I'm glad everyone went home safe. I'm glad everyone had a great time. I'm glad that the fireworks were really cool, and everyone enjoyed them. We spent a lot of money on it, and it was worth it. Possibly next year we might have a second fireworks show off the Esplanade. We will see. Keep Esplanade beautiful. Might do one. We'll see. We'll see what their organization is. All right. So onwards to the next item. Seaside Lagoon. Seaside Lagoon, there's a plan for Seaside Lagoon. That's coming back, going to the Harbor Commission, I believe, in August, and coming to City Council in September. And there's a whole design to be done for the Seaside Lagoon. And that design is going to include a whole new water area and supporting facilities that go around that area. It was due a few months ago. The vendor is behind on this. They received a lot of input on this. They are supposed to be doing one more public gathering. I will need to check as to it was in the Riviera Village. I'm not sure if they've done it yet. I don't think they have. I haven't heard about it yet, but that is coming up. Along with our harbor is we also have on the planning commission, we have our general plan update. That's coming to the harbor planning commission next week, Thursday, special meeting. And that is being finalized for public comment. They've gone through environmental review. And Wayne, since you're a planning commissioner on here, can you tell me real quick, is there anything on there that's special other than the environmental review and the implementation and other aspects of that?
That's primarily it. I mean, what they're going to do, since it's such a large document, it's like close to a couple hundred pages, I think, total. We're gonna have multiple meetings. It's going to be broken up by various portions. Some of it has to do like the future plan, the parkland plan. So it's broken up. What you probably want to do for anyone who wants to come and speak on a specific thing, look on the agenda and they'll actually show which portion we're actually going to cover at that meeting. But my understanding is that this is the first of probably 3 or 4 meetings.
That was my next question. How many meetings? 3 or 4 meetings. All right.
Mhm.
Here we go. So that's coming to the planning commission. Harbor commission is going to be getting the harbor portions and the harbor plans that we're working on. Also, harbor commission is also getting the I believe next month we're signing a contract for the boat launch ramp to move that project along, the boat launch ramp. We have a location. We sent out an RFP, request for proposal. It's a design build contract, and that will be paid for by the state through some of their grants, Department of Boating and Waterways. So let's see, moving on. Charter update. A lot of things happening. Charter review. Tomorrow night we have a Measure DD update. Measure DD is Article 27. That is a ballot measure that was passed in 2009, I believe, 2008, 2009. And there's some language in there that conflicts with some current wins that we've had on our current lawsuits against us. So the guy that's allegedly and supposedly trying to buy and is the alleged owner and is trying to buy the AES site has filed multiple lawsuits, 7 in total, plus 2 lawsuits from what's called the YIMBY groups, which is the Wall Street people. We've been winning them all. I just want to say that right now. We've been winning them all. This guy is a pariah. There was a news article, an LA Times actually, article about him just the other day. I need to post that on my Facebook page actually. And it describes him in not so good light. Basically, it shows how he makes a deal one way and then turns around and uses the legal system to try to sue you and get what he wants. He also, the LA Times article also described his process about how he buys a particular piece of property, then overvalues it, and then tries to get a loan based on that new value, that fake value, and move forward. Well, he's in bankruptcy. He owes 40-something million on the AS property. He sued the city multiple times to get 2,700 condos there, or apartments. And he's lost those 2 lawsuits. And we have a housing document, something I just talked about with our plan commissioner, Wayne Craig, the general plan. And that general plan, part of that was part of a document that went to the state housing community development, HCD, which gave us what's called a certified housing element. A lot of cities like Palo Verde states don't even have a certified housing element yet. And they're open to huge legal ramifications. We did ours on time, in place, moving forward. It doesn't stop people like this guy from suing us. Like I said, we've won, but the problem is in some of these 2 decisions that came through, there's kind of conflicting opinions, and it conflicts with what the state requirements are. So we're passing, or we are going to propose amending Measure DD Article 27, and you'll have that discussion tomorrow night about how we plan on amending the Article 27 Measure DD, and it basically has to do with using verbiage that and a sunset clause that basically states it does not require a vote of the people for any major land use changes when it comes to the housing element, the document that requires, that runs our city as per the state, that state certifies that housing document. And Measure DD Article 27 is part of our city charter that says any major changes to our allowable land use shall go to a vote of the people. So Kensington project on the corner of Nob Hill and PCH, that project went to a vote of the people because that was a conversion from the zoning what they currently had, which was school institution, public institution, to commercial what they currently have right now. So that was a perfect example of Measure DD, a vote. And we're amending that portion of our city charter so that we can steer clear of any further legal issues between the lawsuits that have been filed against us and the state of California Housing Community Development. It's really complicated, but it is probably the most important conversation that we'll have in months. Logo finalized. We finalized the color of our logo. Well, not really, kind of. Yes, that's exactly what it is right now in our logo. Staff came back with some color concepts. We didn't like some of them. We said the logo is good, but we changed the logo colors out for slightly different variations. We sent them off, we approved that, and now it's going to be coming back here in the next few weeks with a finalized version that will be used by city staff for a finalized logo that we will be trademarking and that we will be owning, and we can license out. It will be consistent through all of our signage throughout Redondo Beach. One of the questions that came up is we have green signs in Redondo, street signs, and we have some blue street signs in Redondo Beach. That's because many years ago, about 10 years ago, the city council decided to change all the green street signs to blue. Manhattan Beach has blue street signs. Hermosa has brown street signs. So when you go to Manhattan to Torrance, you don't know. Redondo, you don't know. So one of the aspects that we came to agreement to in the council was continue using all of our green street signs with the new logo. We had some tests in the council chambers there with some public works, did a great job. They print them out on these big street signs, what it would look like, put them on there, pasted them on there, and presented them to the council what blue would look like, what green would look like, with the new logo on there. Public Works did a great job. Traffic engineer did a great job. We had a fantastic conversation. We came to a unanimous agreement as to the final steps on the colorization and the street signs, the colors and the logos and the design of the street signs. So you're going to be seeing all the new street signs moving forward in our old school green and with the new logo moving forward. So there will be no confusion whether you're in Redondo, Manhattan, or Hermosa. So that's really exciting. That's really cool. Moving forward on that, fixing some errors of the past, and yeah. So let's see. Yes, Torrance has green too. Let's see. A new agenda system for the city council. So the agenda system for city council, since I've been here, we've been through at least 3, I want to say, or actually since I've been really paying attention, going to city council and planning commission, there's been 3 agenda management systems, which is funny because the city clerk has dealt with 4. The first one she had was completely manual. She herself manually and her staff manually putting together an agenda system, the actual order of agenda with all the supporting documents. And Then they moved on to a different system, an online system that produced the PDFs and publish it. Then we'd also went to another system because the old system was bought by someone else. Then we moved to one more system, and that system was also bought by someone else. Now, the problem with all of these different systems is they're not congruent through the years because we've expanded our scope. We are now doing online video through YouTube because of during the pandemic, we streamed to YouTube. We can watch all of our planning commission or public safety commission, art commission, all of our commission meetings, all of our city council meetings, and any other events that we have in the council chambers, and as well as the main library. Those can all be streamed online live to YouTube. That's a huge lift, big change. It's also very different than how things used to be done. So Councilmember Lonestein and I really fought hard, moved forward, and went out for an RFP and now got a new agenda management system for what we're using. And this system now integrates everything: the video, the online, the back of the house operations, the front of the house operations, meaning when you go to the website and you click on to download the PDF or the agenda itself. And the agenda is something that hits every single city department, hits every single portion of the city, and is used by the public and staff and electeds alike in many various different ways. So for instance, a city council makes a motion to agendize a conversation of something. That then goes into the queue of the agenda management system. City staff prepare the staff reports, and that gets sent to the city clerk's office. City manager reviews those reports. The city clerk gets everything, puts everything together, and then produces that agenda onto the online system and output it automatically for PDF and both the system that we currently use, the Granicus system. And then the public, myself included, actually see the agenda itself and can download an individual item or the whole agenda itself. You'll see the long form, the short form, the packet, or just the agenda table of contents itself. A lot of improvements have been made through the years with the PDF itself. First, they weren't searchable. Now they're finally searchable. You can add bookmarks now. There are bookmarks now in there. So there's been a phenomenal amount of change these last few years, and now we have a system that's going to do all of that and more. Our Mike Cook, our IT guy, said it best. He said before any commission meeting or city council meeting, IT and staff would be in the council chambers 2 hours before, getting everything working and talking and moving forward. That's why if you see on YouTube upcoming meeting and it says 2 hours ago or 1 hour to go, that's because staff is in there making sure that all the systems work together. The new system that we're getting includes some hardware and puts everything together, so it's just real simple. A couple button clicks and away we go. So that's a big deal. Going back to charter updates real quick, part of the agenda is city clerk's office. City clerk will be having an item here at the end of the month, July 30th. And that is a change you guys, the voters, made, actually approved. There was a movement afoot to go to a new voting system called ranked choice voting. And within the ranked choice voting, there's 2 or 3 different systems. And instead of going to a runoff. So right now, what the old system was, everyone throws their hat in the ring. And if one person does not get 50% plus 1 of the vote, the top 2 go to a runoff within 3 months. And that system's cumbersome because you essentially have 2 campaigns. The public has to endure an extra 3 months of campaigning. The campaigners, the people on the ballot, they're volunteers. Everyone has to go through the system. So we put a ballot measure on there to do ranked choice voting. So everyone votes once, and basically you rank the people that you want. So if there's 4, you can put 3 on there and rank them 1, 2, 3. or 1, 2, 3, 4. There's 4 people. And then ballots come in and they aren't counted, they are ranked. So how many people voted for contender number 1? Oh, okay, out of 100 votes, 25. Number 2, only 30 people. 30 people. And then the next one got 10 people. And then the last one got whatever that number is, 40. Nobody got 50% plus 1 on the first round of counting. And what you do is you take out the lowest number. So if 4th person got 10 votes, you take out those ballots for those 10 votes for that, and then it gets reshuffled again and says, okay, 1, 2, 3, who goes in what order? And it goes until there's one person that gets 50% plus 1. If you have 4 people, you might have to go into the top 2 contenders. If there's 4 people, you might only just have to go once. You might have to go once and take out the 4th person so you get a recount the second time around. There's gonna be some education that goes along with this. We're choosing which exactly type of system for voting that we're doing next week in a next week's council meeting on the 30th. This system has to be in place, chosen, and updated in our ordinance by the beginning of October. It takes roughly 35, 40 days for a new ordinance to be put in place. So this is a new ordinance. So we have to have this done by the middle of the month or the 3rd meeting of the month and chosen. And the first reading as it's called, which is a public hearing, has to be done by the first meeting in September so that the election can be called for that particular ranked choice system in early October, first meeting in October, I believe, when the city clerk will call the election. Calls the election, and then paperwork is due 30 or 40 days later, and that system is open for 30 days. Mr. Wayne Craig, you have your hand up.
I had a question. Since this is going to be a significantly different way of voting in the city, is the city going to undertake any kind of education process so that the residents can actually understand how this works? Because I've spoken to a lot of people, I think you and I have spoken before, we understand the concept, but most people, I don't think are really have a clue what this is yet.
That is correct. So a lot of people don't know it's coming. A lot of people voted on it, not sure the exact details, not sure what it entails. We put aside a significant amount of money for voter education on this particular subject. And I believe like $250,000, I want to say $200,000, $250,000, somewhere around that number, a significant amount of money. And it's going to be in the form of mailers, of videos, going out to all the elected people who are registered to vote in Redondo Beach. And of course, it'll be on our website. I believe the city clerk is going to have a separate meeting and separate events to educate people on how it works. I've talked to a lot of elected officials and throughout the state of California and the country who've had used this system. It is different. It's will require some voter education, and I do think that the earlier and sooner that we get that education out there, the less confusion there will be, but we have to get it out there sooner than later. So as soon as we choose that particular system that we want to utilize, that's when we got to get out there as soon as that happens and start educating people.
Oh, one follow-up, assuming everything goes to schedule, when would the first election actually be utilizing ranked choice voting? Would it be November or would it be in March?
Great question. So the first election we would use for this would be our March of 2025 election. And in March 2025, District 1, that's my seat. District 2, that's Councilmember Lowenstein's seat. District 4, Councilmember Zane's seats. And then the mayor's position, and then as well as the city attorney's position. So those will be subject to the first round. We do not have any seats coming up in November. November, it would be considered a special election for us here in Redondo Beach because it is not a current election cycle. We have our elections on an odd year, not an even year. And so we will have our ballot items on the November election. So the charter changes proposed as well as the bond, if that makes it. as well as any other changes or updates to our charter or city that we're required to put to a vote. And those are a couple things that I can think of, which will be on the November election. Considered a special election for us here in Redondo. And the county will be running that election for us. We will not be running our election in November. It's not our election, it's the county's election. So, but the March election, we will be running on our own. The county will not do a ranked choice election. So, all right. If there's any other questions, so we vote for those who are eliminated to the highest ranking. Nancy, your ballot that you submit will have all candidates on that particular ballot. So if there's 4 candidates, there will be 4 people on that ballot, and you will rank your candidate according. So if you want, say you want in order. First one on the order is your number 1. Second one is number 2. Second number 3. Second number 4. So you can choose to rank all of them. You can choose just to rank 1. I just want to vote for 1, just 1 person. Do 2 or 3. It's up to you to decide. All right. Parks assessment. We did a parks assessment last week. Discussion of park assessment. The city does not have the funds. It was all spent to hire a contractor to assess the parks. We don't have the money to hire someone to do it. There's 2 types of park assessment. We can do an overview, and we can also do a real needs assessment. So the county came through in 2016 and did a major overview of all the parks in LA County, whether they owned and operated them or a city owned and operated that. They did everything. They did a huge survey. And Councilmember Lowenstein asked for in 2019 to do our own parks assessment, and was really funny. The city staff came back with an assessment that said, oh yeah, Franklin Park, yeah, it's good quality, everything's doing well there, let's move on. And other parks were great too, or these were okay, but they're still doable. But when I found the county park study and they rated our parks like Franklin Park, they put Franklin Park in 2016 as poor. But yet our study said in 2020, it said it was in good condition. And now a council member gets there in 2023 and looks at the condition of the park. I looked at the condition of the park in 2023 when what the Metro people with the group fighting the right of way. And I looked around and says, this park is falling apart. There's termites, there's benches are falling apart, the equipment is this is a lot of work needs to be done here. So long story short, we've this year alone we spent $300,000 on that park. Last year we spent $200,000. So overall our parks need an overall assessment as to what we're going to be fixing, maintaining, rebuilding, or not rebuilding, and where we're going. But we don't have the staff and the time right now. It's a big project, and but we do need to do something like that later on. One of the reasons why we need to do that as well is because we have a lot of parklets in Redondo, and parklets came from because there was a decision back made in the 80s and said that, hey, we're going to be densifying dramatically and we don't have a lot of parks. Wouldn't it be smart if we put in a bunch of small little parklets all over the place in the city, so little neighborhoods can create little parklets that neighbors can go there and just have the dog there, have parties or whatever there, these little parklets. Great thinking, great idea. Problem is city staff has to go through and maintain these little parklets, which is expensive and time consuming. Equipment breaks down, needs to be replaced, fixed, grass needs to be cut, takes time. So it creates a significant more amount of maintenance, a maintenance schedule, than having 1 or 2 or 3 or 4 or 5, 6 larger parks. So we have the larger parks, same amount of time versus having a ton of small little parks all throughout the city. So that's something that we need to be assessed moving forward as well. Let's see, what else do we have here? Oh, tomorrow on the city council agenda, we have Silbus Island, which is magic mushrooms, and it's currently illegal in state of California to utilize, but a lot of states like Texas, Oregon, and I can go on, have legalized for medical purposes for the use for veterans and PTSD, police, fire, people with depression. A lot of states in the Southwest have made it okay to use for tribal purposes, which they have used in the past for their entire cultural history. But what I find interesting is California is now allowing this to go down this path. We'll talk about this in greater depth tomorrow. I have a lot more information to share. Giving you a quick overview. States like Texas and Oregon are allowing the use of psilocybin, which is the magic mushrooms and derivatives, to be used in depression and PTSD for veterans and people who are serving or who served overseas or police and fire. And there's a lot of studies, international studies, that show that these type of medical treatments help tremendously to people who have had traumatic brain injuries and traumatic not just injuries but traumatic events in their lives. And we in the United States have had 2 wars, Afghanistan and Iraq, and we have a lot of veterans. I would say Texas has been on the forefront of dealing with the after effects of veterans and dealing with the trauma and the PTSD, and on the forefront of medical help for those veterans. So as well as Oregon. So there's many other states that are allowing this, and I think California is on that list as well. As like I said, I'll go over it more in details tomorrow night, but it's something that has been used internationally. And the last thing I'll add to is end of life. In Switzerland, there's been big studies, internationally, big studies about use of these types of medicinal uses for end of life, people accepting their fate and accepting what's going on. And this has been a cancer patients. It's been a big hot topic in many other communities. So that's coming tomorrow night. Let's see here. Budget, logo, charter commission. Oh, pickleball. Someone made a comment. We talked pickleball last week at the city council level. Someone made a comment at my community meeting I thought was very on point. Is pickleball community has been asking to do shared courts, and Councilmember Obaji talked about being fair and being inclusive, and then create a motion which wiped out one of the tennis courts at Alta Vista and did a complete conversion to pickleball. So I don't know how inclusive that is when you're converting and taking away a use and making exclusive use for something else. But I've already heard from the residents and many other people that there's some significant concerns. You look up pickleball online, wherever you go, you will find a lot of issues between noise and parking and other issues. And I'm all for new uses and doing parks and doing whole type of uses, but mitigate your impacts. And I said from day one, no problem with any of these recreational activities. I want to promote these recreational activities as much as possible. If we're underutilizing something, let's utilize it. But if we introduce something new, we mitigate the impacts. Part of this conversation is also leading to the facility, the racquetball facility at Alta Vista Park, and maybe converting that, because that facility does not get used very much. Maybe we can convert that to a yoga, or have like REI come through and do a climbing wall center at that particular facility. So a lot of cool things are happening, both Riviera Village, or not, excuse me, at Alta Vista there, and moving along. So speaking of Riviera Village, the annual sidewalk sale is coming up August 3rd and 4th. And that's the first weekend of August. If you've never been, it's really cool. All the sidewalks are full of retailers and the stuff they want to get rid of, they need to get rid of, overstock, inventory, out of season. Europe does this actually. They have a sale once or twice a year all of you entire year. So they have it like in January for all the winter gear, and in the summer months for all the in July, I want to say, for all the summer gear. And Riviera Village does the same for their sale. So sidewalk sale is really cool. That's going to happen here next couple weeks. Let's go to events. Centennial Rotary Club of America is turning 100 this year, and they have a big planning event Thursday, July 25th at the King Harbor Cantina, which is a new restaurant in the King Harbor. And the King Harbor Cantina just opened up a few months ago. I heard it's delicious food. It's Mexican food. It's modeled after the Mexican Riviera. And that's Thursday at 5 o'clock for a Rotary Club. Every Friday down the harbor, by the way, is the cruise the beach. Classic cars down the parking lot where the old Ruby's location is at. A ton of stuff going on there. Saturday, July 27th is the safety fair. Is a Canine Police, LA County Canine Police Association having an event at our high school. Really cool event. There's going to be a safety fair from 1 to 3 p.m. and a demo for the dogs from 3 to 5. And I believe I heard a helicopter is going to be coming in with a dog and police officers. So should be really cool. That is this Saturday, safety fair from 1 to 3 and a demo from 3 to 5. Lifeguard Medal of Valor dinner is happening next week, Wednesday, July 31st at King Harbor Yacht Club. That's at 5:30 it starts. And great stories. King Harbor Yacht Club is a great place. Tickets are, I think, are around $40 or so. You can get them at the door. I would highly suggest you pre-order because a lot of years they sell out. New restaurant in Redondo Beach, Riviera Village. And it's the Beach Life Grotto. It's opening up this week. I believe maybe today is the opening night, I want to say. Beach Life Grotto in Riviera Village next to Rockefeller. It's the old liquor store. The Beach Life crew is doing this. Brand new restaurant. It's a retail restaurant facility. They're doing both together. Restaurant is upstairs. It's beach lifestyle food. They have fire pits or fire pits and fire overhead. Outdoor dining, indoor dining, retail, beach life, grotto. It's called Beach Life Culture. New chef. It's in partnership with Quality Seafood, Jeff Jones. Really cool event. Speaking of Riviera Village, just on the outskirts, Bedolino's is considered part of Riviera Village. It's not, but it is. South Bay Parkland is having a fundraiser. Go to dinner there. 10% of the proceeds will go to South Bay Parklands Tuesday night. That's tomorrow night. So go on there, check that out tomorrow night if you're not at the city council meeting. If we get there early enough, if we get out early enough, I'll be there for sure. Bellino's is great food. Love going there. Technically speaking, in that other city, but it's okay. Let's spread the love. So, other than that, I want to say that's all the events that I have. Anyone else has any other events they want to talk about? Let me know. Say it now. Let me go over. Police Canine, Cruise the Beach, Centennial, Middle of Arrow, South Bay Parklands. Let's see here. Tomorrow's agenda. Let's see. Measure DD. Yep. I think. Let me go over my upcoming. My meeting next month. Will be on August 10th, I believe. August 10th. And that's a Saturday. 9:30 in the morning. Usual time, Alta Vista. I do not have a time for my online meeting yet. That's to be determined. It's always moves around. It's usually on a Monday night, not always. And with that, we have council meeting tomorrow night, council meeting next week, and then 3 council meetings in August. We are going 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 weeks, I believe. 7 weeks, 7 or 8 meetings straight for city council. We're gonna have strategic plan. So yes, in August. So we'll have 8 meetings straight on city council. We are busy on city council. So if anyone has anything else, go ahead and throw it in the comments, raise your hand. If not, I don't want to take any more of your Monday night's time. I see some people from North Redondo there, and I've heard about some things going on with Metro. No big news to report there, I don't think. But if no one has anything, I don't see anything. I don't see any hands up. Stalling a little bit. See anything on Zoom? No messages. I will see you guys all either tomorrow night or next month's meeting. I appreciate the time and have a great evening.